Welcome aboard, folks. I'm Steven Malkowich, your captain on this adventure called Ship of Fools. I'm a fool. Lucky for you, I'm not sailing solo. Join me and a boatload of people, all just trying to make sense of this crazy world. It's a fabulous mess, and you're invited. I'd like to welcome Tige Pollock. I said your name correctly. Tige Pollock, Sergeant, the Surrey Police Services. And welcome everyone to Ship of Fools, where wit meets wisdom. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate you coming today.
My pleasure.
I wanted to find out your background and how you ended up in this position. How long have you been with the Surrey Police Services, and were you with the RCMP before?
No, I wasn't. So September 2022, I came here from Toronto. I was in Toronto from about May 2000 until I left in September of 2022.
Okay.
So I've been in the Surrey Police Service since then.
So 4 years. Oh, going on 4 years. Coming on 4
3 and a half, 3-ish. Yeah.
Okay. So your position as a sergeant, are you in charge of communications, or are you and another chap in charge of communications, or?
Yeah, we got a pretty big team, actually. So our communication section sort of deals with everything from internal branding, social media, as well as media relations. So I've got a boss, Lindsay Houghton. He's well known throughout the community. He was in VPD as an MRO. He was at OCA, CFSEU, and then he came to see us. Also, Ian McDonald is with us. Ian has spent a lot of time as an MRO in Abbotsford before he retired, and now he's with us. So there's 3 of us that predominantly do the media relations job.
Okay. So in Toronto, were you a policeman in Toronto, or?
Yeah.
Okay. I won't hold that against you.
That's okay. It's a good place to be a police officer. It's busy.
I'm sure there's a lot to do. What I wanted to get to here is, and I'll break the ice by asking you: Are we? First of all, the transition from the RCMP to the Surrey Police Services, that's the correct moniker, is it not? Surrey
Police Service.
Surrey Police Service.
Yeah.
That officially happened when?
November 29th of 2024, Surrey Police Service became the police of jurisdiction.
Okay. And when you're still in a transitional phase, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
When I say that, because one of the things, this has been, like I told you, I've been in Surrey since like 1998. Lived in Surrey, but been back and forth. Went back. I'm from Winnipeg, so I'm a transplant. I'm not. I came out.
A lot of people out here are. Yeah.
Yeah. I came out when I came out here the first time. I asked my dad, "Did we run out of money?"
Yeah,
is that what happened?
There's
yeah. Did you not see the mountains? No. But regardless, this has been on the burner, Surrey having their own police force for a long time.
Yeah.
And I do remember, not so fondly, the old mayor, and when I say old, I mean old, saying this, and I was a big proponent of it. I was, and what do I know? Okay, but what I said is that I wanted to have, I was in favor of us having our own police force. We're a big city and we're growing, and we touched on this at the beginning before we started recording, that Surrey probably is the largest city in British Columbia, but we could be wrong. But we're not going to fact check that. But it's pretty damn big, and it's growing. And I was a proponent of it, and having grown up on the prairies where the RCMP were gods, they were like you didn't mess around. When I grew up in southern Manitoba, you didn't mess around when the RCMP got involved. We had our own local police force in Morden, Manitoba, population of 7,000 people. It's probably doubled now. But when things got serious, the RCMP came in, and I have I'll say a pseudo background in police service. My father wanted to be a police officer in the 50s. And he didn't find out until much later, but they refused him because I'm Ukrainian.
Okay, yeah.
He had an uncle that was involved in the strike in Winnipeg.
Okay.
Now the excuse they gave him at the time was he wore glasses.
Yeah.
He wanted to be an RCMP officer. He really did, but he became like a game warden. But everywhere we went, and he worked for the Department of Indian Affairs. It was called that at that time for 27 years. But he everywhere we went. And for right up to, he ended up leaving the civil service in 1970, I think it was mid-70s, and bought a hotel in southern Manitoba. So everywhere he went, his best friend was always the commanding officer of the detachment, because he went hunting with them. They fished together. So I have a recollection of RCMP like great. So I held them. I did hold them, and I'm not saying I don't hold them in high regard anymore, but I'm getting, in a long way, I'm getting back to the reason I thought Surrey needed their own police force is because Vancouver has their own police force. Like if you're a city, they need to be responsible to that city, and it's really difficult, I think, because the head of the RCMP is in Ottawa, right? It's a little bit, so that in my simple mind, that's the way I looked at it. So I was a proponent of this happening a long time ago. I didn't think it would be so long and drawn out when it happened, and all the crap that went on. It was ridiculous what happened. And I know you're probably not allowed to say anything about that, but I can tell by your look on your face, and that's fine. Yeah. But we can leave that. But I want to ask you this question. We're safe, right?
Yeah. It's funny. So I do media interviews all the time, right? That's part of my job. And I tell people all the time, Surrey is a safe city, like, because you've being in media forever, if it bleeds, it leads, right? All we hear about is doom and gloom, and, somebody's getting shot every day. And that's just not the truth. Surrey is a very safe city. It's, So 100%.
But the thing is, is that you keep on, and if it bleeds, it leads, you're right. And you keep on seeing this, gunfire at whatever. If you're on social media, you see a post of gunfire in Fraserview or whatever, and is that fake? Is that real? I don't know. I really don't. But it's not like I'm a social media addict. But having started doing a couple of podcasts here now, with Tricia, my wife here, doing I'm sort of getting involved. And I was, up until probably, I'm going to say about 8 or 9 months ago, a digital ghost. You want to find out stuff about me, you better phone me. Because I'm not, I was never that guy. And I don't, I'm a private person, but doing this has forced me. But then getting involved, I also see your job must be 1,000 times more difficult to, I don't want to say keep a lid on whatever it is, but there's a lot of, like, people can get anxious about shit. Like they can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you start doom scrolling or looking at things that are happening in your community, or hearing, there was gunshots, or somebody telling your neighbor saying, well, that wasn't fireworks, that was gunfire. Well, how do you know? Like, was there gunfire down the street? But I'll say this, and my recent interaction, we live across the street from a park, and this will sort of segue into one of the things I wanted to talk about. I was working out, and I come out, and there's little kids playing ball in the park, and there's a guy tweaking naked, like taking his clothes, and I'm watching this, and the people are all walking away, like trying to, and the police officers, 2 of them arrived really quickly, and they were trying to make him get dressed. This is like little kids playing baseball,
right,
in the summertime, and they made him get dressed. And I'm like watching this, and they come, and the guy, they didn't arrest him,
right, and
I was standing there going, okay, well, what are you going to do? And then the guy who was tweaking, he told me to F off, and the cop grabbed him, like, and so I don't know where they escorted him away. But then I talked to them, and I said, listen, what's the, and he was like, well, not saying it's, but if that was me, would I be in the back of a cop car? Like, I know you can't comment.
No, obviously. But I think it's kind of important. I think this probably segues into, and looking at the show notes, like, sort of disorderly conduct, sort of mental health issues. Obviously, this gentleman has some issues.
Something was wrong.
Right. He's got some challenges. And obviously criminalizing that behavior is not going to be helpful to him or anybody, right? Yeah. Typically that sort of thing, what do? Well, we get him dressed, right? Which is what you saw. If he's a danger to himself or somebody else, he gets apprehended under the Mental Health Act. Now,
okay,
was he a danger? I wasn't there, right?
You can't comment.
If he's not a danger to himself or somebody else, but he's clearly got some sort of mental health issue going on. There's no criminal intent in him behaving the way he is. So what do? Well, we get him out of the area so he's not affecting the public, right? If he'll accept, we refer him to, other NGOs and other partners that we have to try and get him help. And that's it. That's basically all we could do, short of, a criminal charge for some sort of, but I mean, that's not helping anybody. It's not helping the public. It's not helping this gentleman who's obviously having an issue, and his life's tough enough already that he doesn't need us making it harder for him.
Yeah.
Which is probably along the same lines that the officers, when they had a chat with him, probably said that's how it works.
Yeah, it's kind of how it is. It is how it works.
Right.
But I can say that this, seeing that, and we recently, let's say we also went to City Hall recently. I say as recently, that was like 3 months ago, where they wanted to build that structure on 152nd with, and there's quite a few people showed up. I'm not I can sympathize. I don't use the word empathize. I can sympathize with the plight of these people. But the way that came about, I don't know, but it was defeated. I'm not against social housing. I'm not against these people need to have homes. But all of these things weigh into the discussion about policing and your job. I've been out in Surrey in the South Surrey White Rock area for a long time, and it does it's growing, and we're showing the pains of growth. With that comes all the things that come with a city growing as quickly as it has. And you don't have the appropriate social services. You don't have all those things that you need to have in order to actually operate as a city. So let's use that as an opportunity to segue into the current policing. And the biggest, I would suggest the impediments that you face. And are there those impediments, would they be, are those transitional from the RCMP to the Surrey Police Service, or are they just sort of like, growing pains?
Yeah, I don't know what specific impediments you're talking about. I can tell you, so when I first got here in September of 2022, I had to do my onboarding, which is about 6 weeks of training. You got to requalify your firearm, all that stuff. Right? I came from out of province. And then I went on the road. So I was a frontline sergeant on the road for a couple of years. I just went into the media relations last November.
Okay.
So I worked with Surrey RCMP officers from the time I hit the road until, November 29th of 2024. I don't think anything's changed. Nothing's changed. Like if you're a citizen and you call the police,
911 or
you
whatever.
call 911, whether you live in District 2 or 4, like Fleetwood, Guildford, or Cloverdale, Port Kells, that's where the RCMP are responsible for right now, or the other 3 districts, which is us. You get a police officer shows up who's competent, who knows what they're doing and are going to do a good job.
Either will it be the RCMP, or
so it'll be the RCMP if it's in those 2 districts that I mentioned, but it'll be Surrey Police Service. Obviously, there's some challenges around, and I think our chief mentioned this in an interview. Like people have been opposed to the transition since before it was the transition, right?
Yeah.
And whatever happened politically doesn't really matter. People were opposed, So it's challenging for the police because you have, these sometimes loud voices that are completely inaccurate online, saying stuff that just isn't true. But I would say, we're able to recruit many, many officers. We're not having a problem recruiting officers. I think right now we've got about 650 sworn members. I think about 400 civilians, somewhere in that.
What do you need? What's the number that you need to get to?
So I believe we're authorized to 810.
Okay.
But we're not having a problem recruiting officers. But it is a delicate balance of, as we mobilize, the RCMP demobilize, and they're part of the provincial police force now, right? So they're actually called the RCMP Surrey Provincial Operations Support Unit. So that's what they're called, as opposed to Surrey RCMP. But so we have to figure that out, right? Files have to be transferred between officers. Like if Surrey RCMP is done in South Surrey, which they are now, those files that are still under investigation have to be transferred to us. So there's, bureaucratic sort of things that are in the transition that are challenging, but I think we're in a good spot.
When officially will the RCMP be done in Surrey?
When the province says they're done.
Okay.
I know there's been dates passed around. We don't necessarily agree on the date. The province is in charge of policing. They're the ones who determine whether things are adequate. They're the ones who had to approve when we became police of jurisdiction. So we had to have certain things in place, like, certain types of investigations that we can cover, reporting, all sorts of things, training. We had to have that all in place before the province said, yes, you are now the police of jurisdiction.
Okay.
So it's up to them when it's done. We believe it'll be into 2027.
Okay.
Just to get everybody hired, onboarded, and in place, and the RCMP demobilized.
Mm-hmm. During this transition period, and then that begs the question, during the transition period, inevitably things will fall through the cracks. Like I don't want to say that serious crimes are serious crimes no matter where you are, right? But like, for instance, in White Rock is currently policed by the RCMP and is planning. They're staying with the RCMP.
Correct. Yeah.
Does that present a bit of an issue?
No, not really. Like I started down in D5, which is South Surrey, District 5. That's where I started. We share a radio band with White Rock.
Okay.
It's just cost effective and infrastructure. White Rock uses our dispatchers. So we share a radio band down there. We can hear them. They can hear us. If they need help, I've gone into White Rock to help people out.
Okay. So see, these are things, the questions I'm asking here, they may seem a little bit simple, but
people just don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. And God knows, we had enough in our neighborhood. We had a lot of signs that were pro RCMP. Like it was, keep
the RCMP in Surrey.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
Yeah, they were everywhere.
Yeah.
But people don't, a lot of people don't know. They don't understand what the situation is. But the overall, the crime rate in Surrey, comparatively speaking, I guess you only have, comparatively speaking to what it was before, is it safe to say that the crime rate is down?
Well, I mean, I don't have the year-end stats yet, but I think that crime sort of globally is sort of down, I think if you look at trends in North America, which is our best comparison, right? I think violent crime has been decreasing for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And the other question that I look at it, there's, your biggest thing is watching the news and the shit that's on the news.
Right.
It's terrible. It is. It can make you quite what happened in Minneapolis. You can't not watch that and go, okay, come on. And I'm not asking for a comment on that specific instance, but and I don't know if it's a question, because my background is in the media, if it's a question of more of this happening now that is being taped or with somebody's phone or whatever it is, any little kind of altercation, and then if it's bleeding, it's going to be all over the place. It just seems like there's a lot of gun violence you're seeing. And is it more now? And I'm not talking about here in Canada. In the United States, it appears to be more, but I don't know.
And that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think the FBI keeps good stats on shootings. Usually most jurisdictions are mandated to keep track of that sort of thing. I mean, somebody could easily, if they had the time and the inclination, do year over year comparisons. I think it's difficult because it's apples and oranges, right? Mm-hmm. We're not the United States. We don't have the Second Amendment. We don't have, we do have a lot of gun ownership here. But it's not to the extent that it is down there. And it's also more, I watched your episode with the CCFR, right? So it's more sport shooting, subsistence hunting, that sort of thing. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist in America, but if you were to believe what you see online, there's a lot of people who just from my cold dead hands, right?
Yeah.
Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
So we don't have that here.
Yeah.
And I would say that in my experience, and I will speak my experience in Toronto, most of the firearms we're getting here are not from legal gun owners, right? They're smuggled across the border and then used here. But it's nowhere near to the level that you see in some cities in the States. I mean, there's some websites about Chicago specifically. They keep a track of how often people are shot and where they're shot and stuff like that. I think they have like a homicide every 23 hours. Like it's astronomical. Somebody shot every 11 hours or something like that. I may be misquoting, but I think the last time I saw it. So it's not even remotely like that. And it's like you said, it's sensationalized. If people think they can get clicks, they're going to put stuff online. Mm-hmm. I mean, that takes us down a whole other rabbit hole of AI. What is real? What isn't? I mean,
well, that's another challenge, because I could pull a clip up on my phone right now and show you, like, okay, is that gunfire, is that real, or did somebody make that up? Because I'm asking that question and saying, did that really happen? I don't know. But if there's a complaint we'll use this because I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but is there a gang problem in Surrey vis-a-vis extortion and things like that? Is that real? Or is that just...
There's certainly an extortion problem. Like, there's a challenge. We acknowledge that. I think even, the federal government and the provincial government have acknowledged that there's challenges here, because, I mean, there's been the creation of the BC Extortion Task Force that Minister Krieger announced months ago that works out of BC RCMP. Mm-hmm. We've got, I think, 14 or 15 members who work on it. Mm-hmm. So that we have certainly seen a spike in extortions. I don't know if that's copycat. I don't know if it's coming from elsewhere. I don't know where it came from. I know from speaking to colleagues who've worked in Surrey for years, it's always been a challenge. It's always been a problem. These have always gone on, traditionally underreported, we believe. But we have seen an increase, and that's why we have dedicated investigative teams. And we're, like I said, the federal RCMP have an extortion task force. We have the BC Extortion Task Force. Many of the municipalities around here, like us in Abbotsford, have their own team now, because it is a challenge that's growing.
Okay. I'm going to follow that up with a stupid question.
There's no stupid. Well, let's
listen to the question here. It involves fireworks.
Okay.
And is fireworks legal?
So, in the city of Surrey, if you want to have a fireworks display, this is something I believe. I thought I saw Councillor Stutt calling on the provincial government to outlaw fireworks. In the city of Surrey, if you want to set off fireworks, you have to get a permit through the city. It's principally a bylaw issue.
Okay.
So, if you're going to discharge fireworks, is it legal? Do you have a permit? If you don't have a permit, then you could be breaching a bylaw.
Because it scares the shit out of my dogs.
My dog, so I'll tell you as an aside, I've got a rescue dog. So I've got one of our dogs. We got 2 Rhodesian Ridgebacks, love them to death. One is a rescue, was kept in a cage for about 2.5 years of her life when she first started in a puppy mill down in the States. Terrified of fireworks, terrified of thunder, terrified of under the sheets, whatever. Yes, exactly. So yeah, we get a lot of complaints about fireworks. We when you look at the holidays that we typically get fireworks, Canada Day, Vaisakhi, Halloween, we have extra officers out there who are working with bylaw enforcement officers, responding to these things proactively, going to places where we think, kids are going to be setting off fireworks, seizing stuff, disposing of it. So we do have that, but
because we've never dialed 911 when that's happened. We have,
nor should you.
Yeah, well, should you? But the thing is that and this year, you're calling, like, I'm a prairie boy. We never. I don't ever remember, like, we had lady fingers when we were kids and that kind of thing, but I see a lot of, like, serious fireworks and shit like that. And having been to India and seeing the fireworks going off all the time and that kind of stuff, I've always asked this question, because at Halloween, when we, like, growing up, Halloween, we never lit fireworks.
Wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a thing. And we didn't burn cars either. We didn't do stuff like we did. I'm not saying we do that in Surrey, but out in Surrey, there's lots of fireworks, and there might be out in Maple Ridge. I don't know, but there just seems to be a lot more. And that's why I asked the question. Is it against? It's a bylaw.
It's a bylaw,
and you're supposed to have a permit.
You're supposed to do a permit.
Okay, and so, but you can't be running around.
No, and I would say, when does it become a policing issue? Somebody's shooting fireworks at somebody's face, or somebody does that, fires a bottle rocket. I fire a bottle rocket at you and hit you in the eye and injure you. Okay, now it's a police matter. somebody's setting a firework off and it's making a loud noise, that's a bylaw issue, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I get you. I understand. So the issue back to the gang, you're anecdotally, I would say that you're probably right that it was underreported before the gang stuff, because a lot of it's, you know, if you refuse to do what somebody's trying to make you do, and it's illegal what they're, you know, that kind of thing. And if you're not going to, how's anybody going to know?
Right.
But in today's day and age, with everyone potentially considering themselves a journalist, okay, and you're talking to an old hack here, who I have no problem saying this, that, you know, you're not a journalist,
right?
You know, don't pretend to be,
right?
I mean that. Like, I seriously mean that.
Yeah.
And if they think that, like with our, and I always say this, the when people say, well, we're mainstream media, and I've been accused of a lot of things, and I go, you know, if you look behind the curtain, like, we're just like every other person here. We're trying to, and honestly, a good journalist should be like sandpaper. They should.
Right.
They don't have to be an asshole, but you shouldn't like them. And I know that because I grew up in the business, and I know, you know, you got to ask the right questions. You got to dig. You got to find out what's going on. And there's only one way to that truth. Now, I'm not suggesting that any police service is hiding the truth. They want to get to the truth. And I believe that, you know, my trust has always been, I don't think we're out of control, or there's but it seems if you get sucked down that hole of paying attention to what's coming up on the phone or whatever, you know, it's pretty easy to assume that we're in a shitty situation, and that it's not, you know, I went to, I told you before that we were at City Hall. There was a lot of people there, and there were police officers there, and they were around, and you could see them, and, you know, there was a little bit of stuff tussling at the door to get into the council, which happens.
It happens.
That kind of stuff happens when you start talking political and emotional, and people get upset. But I have to admit, though, it was quite interesting seeing a large percentage of the people that showed up. And I haven't been to a council meeting in years, because it's not somewhere I'd really like to go. Right. But there was a lot of Asian people there. And it was funny because we sang "O Canada," and they were singing "O Canada" using their phone for the words. Well, I need that too, because I don't know the words to "O Canada" anymore either. And you being from Toronto, you know, Ottawa, I don't know, like, you just change the words now. Like, I didn't know that was a thing.
It's been a thing for a while,
yeah. You just change the words. Yep. And to whoever's singing at a sports event or whatever, you can just ad lib. I didn't know that was an option.
Well, I try not to. Yeah, but
now I don't know the words. Am I singing the right rendition of "O Canada" here? But it was funny because it was shocking, and it was shocking. But I also went, you know, you're here because you care, and that's a good thing.
100%,
right? So, and there's the other thing I wanted to ask you too. So there's no challenges in recruiting. You have
absolutely not. There's, contrary to what some people say online, we have zero challenges in recruiting.
How many? Say this, RCMP in the transition. How many RCMP members made the went with the Surrey?
I don't know. I don't know that. I know we have quite a few members, but not necessarily. I think and I did get a report at some point, but I think we're encapsulating all RCMP. So I don't think we're specifically focusing in on Surrey RCMP. Okay. So we do have quite a number of former RCMP officers who have become Surrey Police Service officers.
How, and if you're not comfortable commenting on this, this is a question that comes to mind. The RCMP used to be, you had to go where they told you to go. That's not the case anymore.
I'm not, you know what? And I to be honest, I don't even know. I've never worked for the RCMP. I grew up
buddies there.
I grew up on the Sunshine Coast, so that's RCMP. Grew up knowing RCMP officers. My dad had a skate sharpening machine, so he would sharpen skates for so all the guys who played hockey, come down, whatever. Knew lots of them. I don't know how their transfer policy is now. I've got a niece who works in Alberta in K Division, and they're transferring from Lloydminster up to Fort Mac. They asked to go there.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I said. I was there once returning a prisoner in January. So we flew in there from Toronto in January in Fort McMurray and spent the night and then returned the prisoner the next day. And it was something. But yeah, so I'm not sure what their policy is. I don't know. I mean, the bottom line is that everybody who is currently an RCMP member in Surrey will eventually have to leave or retire. Mm-hmm. Where they go, I don't know. How they determine if it's senior, I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but they will eventually have to leave.
Yeah,
when they're done.
Yeah.
So
any like, what do you think? What's the biggest issue facing the police service right now? Like, what is the biggest? Is it homeless? Is it crime? Is it mental illness? Is it is it lack of social services?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for us to comment on social services and what supports are out there. I can say I don't know if there's one thing. I mean, obviously, sort of we as police, and we always have, deal with the downstream outcomes of upstream social policy and whatever. So we just deal with the outcomes.
Yeah,
we have no sway on it, nor should we. That's not a place that the police service belongs. You know, we're supposed to be an apolitical organization, although we're deeply politicized by media and other people. I would say, certainly dealing with, unhoused people and all of the sort of things that go along with it. Like, many people are unhoused because they have mental health challenges, because they have addiction challenges, right? Life is tough. Like I worked up in Wally too for a while. And, I would tell people all the time, like, dealing with these folks, like, your life's tough. It's not my job to make it harder for you.
Yeah.
This is why we treat people with respect who are having challenges and say, listen, I need you to move because the store owner doesn't want you here. But like, when you get a second, grab your stuff and move on. I don't need to be rude to people, whatever. But certainly, I think every police jurisdiction is struggling with everything sort of post-COVID with unhoused people, drug addiction, mental health is a problem. And on top of that, you've got all the stuff that police always do, right? Which is like, proactive stuff to try and deter crime, supporting victims, all the things that we have to
get involved in the community.
I mean, part of it is, I think, a huge push, and I wasn't here, but I think a huge push to have Surrey have its own police service was community engagement, community focus. We do have a unit that does community engagement all the time. You'll see them all the time at events. We've got, empowerment seminars put on by some of our recruiting staff for female members. We do all sorts of stuff in the community, but you never hear about because nobody cares because it's not, they don't think it's newsworthy.
Yeah.
But all of these things are challenges. The nice thing about having a municipal police service is that we're very nimble. We can move resources from one place to another. We can change on the fly like that. It's not an issue. We don't need somebody at a provincial or a federal level to okay stuff. And not that the RCMP ever necessarily did. I mean, they had an officer in charge of Surrey RCMP, and they were able to make significant decisions about the best way to police their community. So it's not like they have to ask Ottawa for everything, right? Yeah. That's not how it worked. And I think, unfortunately, that's the way it always gets portrayed, but that's not the way it is. But I think we're more nimble. I think it's easier for us to respond quickly to the community.
Does the police service, they report to a city board?
Yeah, so we have the Surrey Police Board. It's a number of appointees. A couple of the appointees are from the city, rest are from the province. Okay. Yeah, appointed people.
Okay, and what do they meet weekly? They meet
monthly. Anybody interested? The Surrey Police Board posts their meetings online. You can watch them if you want to. There's open camera and closed portions because some stuff is obviously privacy. The general public can't watch it, but if you want to, you can watch it online. I encourage people to do that. You can read all the minutes and stuff if you want.
Well, these are questions that if I was real serious about it, I would.
It's okay.
But the thing is that there's a lot of like, and for context, we're talking, like, I'm trying to go back in time what the population of Surrey was in like 1998 and what it is now. It's growing immensely.
Yeah.
And there's room for it to grow even more because we've got, we do have the land to
Certainly.
expand.
Yeah.
And we can dictate to the way, what the plan is and how we're going to develop. When I came out here, and I mean it, like in the early 90s, and going out to Surrey in 97, 98, and seeing, a cul-de-sac with 6 homes beside a farm.
Right. Yeah.
With a rusted out car sitting there going, well, was that part of the plan? No, I'm serious. Like I was going, like, I've been in big cities. I didn't know that you could, have a cattle farm right here and, 6 houses and whatever it is. I don't know what, I still don't understand how the city of Surrey works with zoning. I don't.
Yeah, I certainly don't. I can tell you it's not unique. So when I lived in Ontario, I lived in a place called Milton. Okay. You know Milton. So Milton, talk about astronomical growth. They had an issue where once they got a pipeline put in, basically it was all systems go. But I mean, that was the same thing where it was like, my home is in a small community, at like, where was it? Steeles and Bronte. It's there. But then on the other side of the street is farmers' fields as far as you can see, right? Mm-hmm. And then now it's all the way from Britannia all the way to the highway is nothing but homes now. Yeah. So it's not dissimilar there, but I'm definitely not an expert on city planning.
No, it's been astronomical, but I don't know, like, and I look at even our neighborhood. We live in an old neighborhood. Okay. The houses were built in the late 60s, early 70s. I didn't know that you could use every square foot of the lot. I didn't know that. I thought there was a percentage that you worked on, but apparently I'm wrong. I don't know. I know you can't comment on that. I'm just airing that out because I don't understand how that works. But the thing is, I guess the point I'm making here is that we've grown immensely, and not only grown immensely, then you've got it was a battle in the media of what's right, their own police service or the RCMP, and that fight went on way too long. I'll comment on it. I don't give a shit about that. Like, I'm going to say that went on way too long. Make a decision. The decision was made,
right? And
then eventually, the provincial government had to step in and say, "Look, this is going to happen." So you've got this immense growth, and you have a transition of the police force, and and that transition might take to 2020. You might say 2027, 2028, or 2030. It doesn't, but the provincial government will be the one that decides when that's officially done. That's the point. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, and you touched on the homeless, or you called them, I think, I don't use the
unhoused
people.
Yeah.
Homeless. Why did that change? The moniker is...
Good question. I don't know why it changed. Well, I don't know if you call it woke. Because it changed in Toronto too. I think it's probably I think maybe there was a negative connotation to the ongoing term, and trying to treat people with dignity and respect and not use a term that's maybe disrespectful. I don't know why it changed, but that's the term we use.
So every day, do you have a set of words that you're not allowed to use?
No.
Because I noticed that you did call them unhoused.
Yeah.
And I was shocked.
That's a term. It's funny. Yeah. I just go with whatever the sort of those. Yeah.
But you don't have a book every day.
No.
On to perception versus the actual reality of the whole thing here. What is I guess the largest perception that residents or people from outside of Surrey, because we're all connected here. It's,
sure.
You can't, Langley's right there. There's a bunch of municipalities, a bunch of cities. New West is just across the bridge. What's the biggest misconception or perception of Surrey and the police force there, and the crime and that kind of thing versus the reality. Meaning, and I'll clarify myself. Is there because there was always a connotation when I went to Surrey in '98. I can't even, Wally, say Wally, there's a lot of places in Surrey. You can just say the name and people go, oh, okay, rootin' tootin' Newton,
right.
That kind of thing. But what's the biggest perception that people have that's not like a reality? It's not real. It's bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, I think we spoke about it earlier, this whole idea that, Surrey's unsafe. Like, it's just like it's bandits running around, shooting up stuff, whatever. As a funny aside, a friend of mine, either they went to New York or they knew somebody who was in New York, and they asked, where are you from? So, oh, from Canada. Oh, yeah, where? Surrey. Oh, you guys got this is in New York. Are you serious?
So we're that. No.
But yeah, so what I can say is there isn't a shooting every day. Mm-hmm. People aren't running amok in the streets.
Well, I know that.
You know that, right? But that's the thing, and it's unfortunate that it's a perception, maybe pushed by some people, whether it's to get clicks online or whatever.
It's always been that. Like I'll say,
very safe.
I'll say this. Like I speaking of New York, because you brought it up, we started and I laugh about it now because that was just on the tail end of with I Love New York. That kind of stuff. And we started I Love Surrey, and we had pins made and everything. It was with the newspaper. And that's when there used to be two newspapers. Actually, we were competing with the other two newspapers too, but it was a healthy rivalry. But we started the campaign, I Love Surrey. And you could imagine the kind of crap we were taking from a lot of people,
I can imagine. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this is world.
That's right. It was, and that was like 1998, 99. 2000, where, why would anybody want to go to Surrey? As a matter of fact, used to call it scurvy. There was always kind of like really nice names for it. And I would defend it because, it's not Vancouver. We're not Vancouver. We're not. Each market here, and this I'll come back to my newspaper background on this. Really what happens is each market, a good newspaper, like any good media outlet, will reflect the community it serves. Okay. But that is the truth, because we're in some really small markets. We're in, the largest market we have involvement with is in Victoria, the daily paper there, which is still, it's an island and it still does okay.
Right.
In the US, we're in markets all over the United States too. And I don't feel unsafe in Surrey.
You shouldn't.
I don't.
You shouldn't.
I don't. And I know that there is a connotation, but it's less of now, I think, than it used to be. Like the connotation, the negative connotation that went on with being associated with Surrey. But we're not like, and a lot of people, I'm shocked that, you're talking anecdotally speaking that somebody in New York knew about Surrey, but they always talk about Vancouver. Right. Like people don't know, like it's like Toronto. You said you live in Milton. I know where that is, but that's because I toured around Southern Ontario. I know, I know places. I've been in Niagara Falls. My sister lives just outside of St. Catharines. I know that area, but people just associate, they don't, like a lot of people that have never been here actually don't know how the Lower Mainland is and how it's broken up with the river and
right.
It is unique. But I'll say, the city will continue to grow. There's no question that it's going to grow. You said that the headlines and viral clips and things they're an issue. Like you're hit with them every day.
Yeah.
The stuff that happens, and there's only like yourself, your department is like
three of us that really are kind of talk. Two of us do most of the talking. Yeah.
Yeah. And so everything falls on you guys, like all the stuff. And I could imagine what your voicemail or your email is like, because everybody that, I say this, like, opinions or complaints, like It's easy to do that. It's easy to have an opinion. It's easy to complain.
Yeah.
But try complaining with a potential solution that actually works in reality. Right?
Right.
That's, does this work? And you made mention of this too, Tige, that your job is to enforce the law, right? When people are breaking the law, that's what it is. At the end of the day, it's like if people are, and you can't be everywhere all the time. You can act as hopefully a deterrent. That's, why we see the highway patrol out there getting speeders. I'd like to know why the RCMP have to feel it's necessary on my commute to my office in Vancouver to be pulling people over in the HOV lane just before the Oak Street Bridge. I'd like to know that. Why?
That's a good question. You should ask them.
I will ask them. I'd like to know. I just like to know, why do you feel it's necessary at this time of the day to be doing that? When you know that we're trying to get 4 lanes into
most
2.
of the infractions are happening.
Yeah,
probably.
it probably is, but HOV is something you can't. The HOV lane, like you're talking to a seasoned veteran that drives through the tunnel pretty much every morning, and the worst nightmare that I possibly have is being caught mid-span in that tunnel, in the counterflow lane, nowhere to go if anything happens. Like, I'm serious, and that's been for 16, 17 years now, like going. And so when I found out the Patella Bridge, and I don't, maybe you can enlighten me what it's called now, but
I think it's Stellawasum.
You got it.
Riverview Bridge, I think is the anglicized name.
Okay. So, but I still call it the Patella, but I didn't even know it was 4 lanes. I thought they were making it larger, but I see the point, because if it's more than 4 lanes, you're just going to have like 8 lanes going into 4 on either side of the bridge, and it'll be the same shit, different pile. Like, we have to start thinking though out here about the infrastructure, about the things that we need and the things that we want. But we did touch a little bit on this, the issue of perception versus reality. If there was one thought that anybody that will listen or watch this would come away with, what would that be?
Maybe be more informed.
Mm-hmm.
Be proactive in being informed. Like I mentioned before, we have so in our online presence, obviously we've got all the socials for the Surrey Police Service. There's also some additional channels, like our recruiting. They'll have their own channel on socials and that sort of stuff. But be more informed. We've got our website. We post crime stats. We post all of our media releases. It's a great source. The police board.
Mm-hmm.
Watch a meeting, they record them. Feel free, when you've got some time, go on YouTube, watch the board meetings. It's important for people, like you said, like, don't just complain. But and I mean, I respect that some people get frustrated and all they can do is complain, and that's fine. I'm not saying don't complain, but if you want to be more informed, I think that'll help people feel safer if they realize what is actually going on in the city. So I would encourage anybody, feel free, go to our events when we post them online. Feel free, interact with some officers. Watch the police board meetings. Go on our website. See what's actually happening in Surrey. And I think most people will come away going, okay, well, it's not like, it's not all doom and gloom. Like you said about, journalism. We joke sometimes, that journalism's dead. But we just joke about that. There's lots of very, very good, very competent journalists out there. But the definition of a journalist is kind of morphed over time. And so anybody with a cell phone camera, right, can take a video and post it online out of context and say that they know everything. And that can be, it causes anxiety for a lot of people because they see this sort of one-sided, out of context clip. I encourage people, go to our website, look at our channels, watch what's actually going on. Follow the city. The city of Surrey puts out communications all the time about stuff that's going on from the city comms perspective. It's important to know what the heck is going on in your community.
Yeah, and that's. But you said one thing key there: community.
Yeah,
like community. There's an insinuation with that you care.
Yeah,
and if you give a shit, if you care, then you should. The onus is on you. You can find out. It's not like there's any secrets. But I've been sitting in the seat, like I said, since like I came out here from Manitoba in 94. So I've been out here back and forth to Winnipeg a few times. But I have seen it grow dramatically. I have seen things change. I would, I say this, and it's not anecdotal. There's more of an unhoused issue. There's mental health is an issue. There's a lot of these things that are occurring, things that I see on the street that I didn't see on the street before. But the police service, you try to treat everybody with dignity. You want respect, whatever it is, to make sure that they don't feel like they're, and it's easy to get into that doom scenario because if you watch any news, you go like it's just shitty. Everything's terrible all the time, and it's not. It's
not. No.
Yeah, and I'll use this as that same guy that was naked in the park, just to bring it full circle around here. The two police officers, I did say there was an issue down the street, and whoever was the lead guy there, he said, "I'll take a drive by," and within a week, the situation was rectified. Meaning, I don't need to get into details of it, but that was just something that was unacceptable in the neighborhood, and enough people had said this, and the issue was dealt with.
Supposed to happen.
That's the way it's supposed to happen. Exactly. On that note, I'll ask you, Tig, is there anything else that you'd like to? You can reiterate where people can, if the website that they can go to.
Yeah, surreypolice.ca. They can go there, get lots of information. Like I said, we've got everything. Anybody interested in a career in law enforcement, feel free to go there. We've got great recruiting officers. We do info sessions all the time. Do female only info sessions if female applicants feel uncomfortable. We've got lots of great information about media releases we're doing, missing people. If you're out in the community and you want to help us find a missing person. Mm-hmm. Look for all our socials. We've got tons of social media presence, Facebook, Instagram, X, all that stuff.
What percentage of the police force is female?
20%.
Wow, you knew that right off the bat.
Yeah, it's pretty standard. We're part of the 30 by 30 pledge, which is many organizations are focusing on trying to have 30% of their new recruits that we hire by 2030 be female. Okay. I can tell you, so when I was in Toronto, I worked for a period of time, almost a year, as an acting inspector at the talent acquisition unit out there. That's recruiting. We get reports annually about the amount of females who apply to policing in Ontario. It hovers around 18 to 20%. That's standard. But yeah, 20% of our officers are, I actually had some notes, but I'm surprised I remember that right away. Yeah, that's 20% of our officers feel. We have 44% of officers are what are considered self-identify as minorities, and 22% are Indigenous. So,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I think so.
It is.
Trying to increase it, but anybody who's interested in a career in policing, feel free. Okay. You can contact our people. They're fantastic. They do a great job.
On that note, Tig, I'd like to thank you for coming out and doing this. I appreciate it. No problem. It's been great. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, man.
Very nice to meet you.
You betcha.
Take care.
You may be asking yourself, what's any of this got to do with me? Absolutely nothing. Until next time.